Headline in the Washington Post today: 2 friends were denied care after Florida banned abortion. One almost died. And I don't normally read, particularly from other people's writings, but I just have to share this story with you. This is by Carolyn Kitchener in the Washington Post, and you can read it on their website, WashingtonPost.com. And it's about a woman named Anya Cook, and it says, Anya Cook did not want to push, but sitting on the toilet, legs splayed wide, she knew she didn't have a choice. She was about to deliver her baby alone in the bathroom of a hair salon. On this Thursday afternoon in mid-December, about 5 months before her due date, she knew the baby would not be born alive. And, they just talk about this. At 36, she had a long history of miscarriages. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. As soon as the fetus hit the water, blood started flowing between her thighs. It splattered the white toilet seat across the floor. She panicked. She called her husband, said, come into the bathroom. Over the course of the day, she lost roughly half the blood in her body. Now, this is a woman who had intended to have a pregnancy, had worked to have a pregnancy, wanted to have a pregnancy, but her water broke the night before. And, at that early stage of gestation, 4 months in, when your water breaks, it's almost impossible for a fetus to survive that. I mean, that amniotic fluid is necessary. And normally what happens is when that happens, you go to the hospital and they do an abortion, basically. They terminate the pregnancy because the fetus is not viable. She went to the emergency room when her water broke, and they said, sorry, we can't do what we normally do. What is the standard of care? What she has is what's called pre-viability PPROM, which stands for preterm pre-labor rupture of the membranes. Pre-viability pre-labor rupture of membranes. It happens in about 1% of pregnancies. And it's terminal for the fetus. And so you go into the hospital and they take everything out, and that's or they take out the fetus, they perform an abortion, and that's the end of that. But she went to the hospital and they said, sorry, because of the laws here in Florida, we're afraid to give you that abortion, so you're just going to have to go home. And when you're close to death, give us a call. And so she went home and ended up sitting on the toilet and, having this dead fetus come out of her, and then losing half the blood in her body. By the time she got to the hospital, she was on a ventilator. She was unconscious. They were breathing for her because Ron DeSantis signed this law. 18 states now have banned abortion before fetal viability. And in all of those states, this is how it can play out. And by the way, this is, the really surprising part of this is that a 2022 study in the impact of Texas's 6-week abortion ban found 57% of pre-viability PPROM patients in Texas were not given the option to end their pregnancies. But the condition is so common, I'm quoting from the Washington Post, the condition is common enough that one day after Cook was turned away from the hospital, the same thing happened to one of her closest friends. Shanae Smith Cunningham, 32, was 19 weeks into her pregnancy when her water broke. The exact same thing happened. And this almost kills these women. And in many cases leaves them permanently scarred, permanently infertile. When Hani Mostafa was the OB-GYN who was on duty that day, he says, quote, she was critically ill and mechanically ventilated. He stepped out into the waiting room to talk to Derek, her husband, and said, your wife could die. I will do my very best, but the rest is up to God. Thanks to Ron DeSantis signing this ban on abortion in Florida. This is what's happening in America right now. And the Republican Party thinks they're going to get reelected on this stuff? Seriously?